Okay, good morning. We do have public speakers.
Yes, Madam Chair,
Yes.
we do. We have three public speakers. The first is Patrick Scully, and I'd like to remind each of the speakers that their time is limited to 2 minutes.
Good morning. I'm here today to talk on the CNG bus procurement before the committee. My name is Patrick Scully. I'm with Daimler Buses North America. Daimler Buses North America builds Orion Transit buses in Oriskany, New York, and employs over 600 hourly and salaried staff and has been the leading supplier of transit buses to the MTA over the past 15 years, with almost 3,000 New York State produced buses operating daily in New York City. Orion and its workers pay over $1 million annually in state taxes to help fund state programs, including operations of the MTA. Orion has invested over $25 million in vehicle modifications and improvements for our latest edition Orion 7 transit bus to continue our industry-leading reliability and durability for which the Orion brand has become known for. Orion is investing further over $5 million in frame modifications and campaigns to maximize mean distance between failure targets for the New York MTA fleet, and we understand that the MDBF has improved with the delivery of new CNG buses to the LIB Long Island bus fleet in the past year. Orion has been able to maintain jobs in the state through major procurements such as those by the MTA. The current negative economic environment has impacted the bus manufacturing industry severely, with new bid activity down 30% in 2010, and 2011 is expected to be a very difficult year for bus production. Orion's order board outlook for 2011 currently shows a jobs reduction impact unless new orders are achieved. The current procurement before the committee today for 430 CNG buses is of critical importance given the state of the overall economy. Orion's pending jobs reduction, the importance of keeping state tax dollars working within the state is obviously critical. Orion remains committed to the MTA as a New York State supplier and wants the committee to be aware of these important facts in their decisions in spending capital dollars, and encourages the MTA to ensure state tax dollars are kept working in the state. Thank you. And I believe you have a copy of our submission.
The next speaker is Myron Kuchera.
Good morning. My name is Myron Kuchera. I'm the president of United Auto Workers Local 2243 in Oriskany, New York. I'm here to talk about the Orion compressed natural gas bus. United Auto Workers Local 2243 represents more than 400 men and women that build the Orion bus in Oriskany, and we all pay state and local taxes. We and our colleagues, and there's 200 more of us at Orion, absolutely know we handcraft the very finest transit bus in the world. We want to make sure that the MTA is aware of all the impacts of spending capital dollars, especially in light of the current economy. So buying New York State-made Orion buses will put hard-earned tax dollars to good use. We all get the best money and the best bang out of our buck if we buy and spend most of our money right here in New York State. And it's our view that the pricing differences between the proposals is very minimal, and you should very seriously consider supporting local industry, local jobs in the state of New York. Buying New York State-made Orion buses will support local union workers and their families, in addition to hundreds of other New York parts and component manufacturers and vendors. This sustains and creates more jobs in New York while keeping our tax dollars in New York. Buying New York State-made Orion buses will reduce negative impact on the environment simply by shorter delivery distance, time, and fuel consumption. Think green. Buying New York State-made Orion buses will take advantage of better after-the-sale service and parts right next door by New York State workers. Buying New York State-made Orion buses will encourage prosperity and investment in our great state of New York. And by keeping the majority of your fleet here, Orion, why not keep a good thing going? Thank you very much.
Thank you. And the next and final speaker is Bill Henderson, PCAC.
Good morning. Thanks for the opportunity to speak to you this morning. In today's committee agenda, there are several bus service changes that are presented as information items. These come on the heels of a great many other changes over the last year. Some of the changes have been done to increase operational efficiency. Some of them have been motivated by the financial situation of the MTA. Increasingly, we're receiving reports that changes in bus services have made it necessary for riders to take at least two subway to bus, bus to subway, or bus to bus transfers in order to reach their destinations. For riders without time-based Metro cards, that means 2 fares must be paid. In the past, NYC Transit has responded to the splitting of routes by creating special transfer rules, but we understand that similar actions are not currently being contemplated. The NYCTRC, New York City Transit Riders Council, finds this situation very disturbing and a reversal of long-standing policy against 2 fare zones. We believe that riders who are forced to make a 3 or even more legged trip to reach their destination should not be further burdened at the fare box. We're confident that there are feasible solutions to these problems, and we intend to speak out further on the issue and look forward to discussing possible solutions with the MTA and the agencies. Thank you.
Motion and second, approve the minutes? Okay. So moved. There are no changes to the work plan this month. Of course, if anyone has any questions, you're always welcome to ask. And I'd like to give now the floor to our Vice President, Chief Transportation and Labor Relations Officer, to John Hine, to report on the operations.
John is missing from today, and you can see by his chair, so I'm going to sit in for him this morning. Okay. Good morning, Chairperson Travella, members of the committee. I'd like to begin with the operations report. The performance highlights for the month of May are on page 10 and 11 of the committee book. Our MDBF was up 6.2% in May as compared to 2009 levels. The combined MDBF average through May 2010 was up slightly as compared to the prior 12-month average. Bus service performance measures declined slightly in May. AM weekday pullouts were 98.07%, and combined PM weekday pullouts were 98.43% for the month of May. For the previous 12 months, AM weekday pullouts were 99.35%, and combined PM weekday pullouts were 99.56%. Completed trips were 96.91 for the month of May and 98.72 for the previous 12 months. Performance has declined slightly for the service indicators as a result of some unfilled bus operator vacancies which were being held in conjunction with the impending June 27th service reductions. Before I pass it over to Steve, I'd just like to make a little comment on the weather. We probably have the hottest July in record going on right now, and buses are like, I tell everyone, they're like Goldilocks. Can't be too hot, can't be too cold. And right now, if it's extremely, they're being put through their paces. The depots themselves.
Stick to your day job.
The porridge. The depots themselves are anywhere from 5 to 10 degrees hotter than the normal ambient temperature outside. And despite all of that, we're still making service. The buses are definitely strained, but our AC systems are definitely strained, but we're still managing to do our daily performance and meet our daily score. And I just want to congratulate all my people for the tough times that they're going through right now. Okay, Steve?
On the safety performance, prior to reviewing the safety results for April, I would like to make the committee aware of changes with regard to reporting and measurement of Long Island bus safety data. To standardize the statistical reporting across all 3 bus agencies, reporting criteria at Long Island Bus was modified during the first half of 2009. As a result, year-over-year comparisons at Long Island Bus and at the overall regional bus level will not be fully reflective of trends until the full reporting period is integrated into the data. Our April performance listed on page 12 was as follows. Overall, for the 12-month rate for combined bus collisions per million miles traveled across the 3 bus units, that was essentially unchanged from last year. The 12-month rate for bus collision injuries per million miles rose by 2.2%. It is important to note that 50% of that increase can be attributed to 2 New York City Transit accidents resulting in 20 injuries, Both of these accidents are currently under investigation by New York State's Public Transportation Safety Board. The 12-month rate for customer accidents rose 8.7% over the prior 12-month period, and the rate for customer accidents also increased by 5.2%. As previously reported, we're continuing to see positive trends in these areas, both at New York City Transit and MTA Bus, and we anticipate the same result at Long Island Bus once the new measure is fully reflected in the year-over-year statistics. And lastly, the 12-month rate for employee off-duty lost time accidents is down by 11.9% from 2009 levels. However, the lost time accident level for the month of April was 30% better than April 2009, so we're continuing to see recovery in that area over the last 3 months. I'm going to pass this on to Tom Charles for a paratransit report.
Thank you, Steve. Good morning. Accessoride paratransit ridership increased 8% for the month of May. April-wide was down 5.7 compared to May 2009 levels. For the most recent 12-month period through May 2010, paratransit ridership continued to increase over the prior 12-month period. Accessoride was up 13.2%, and Able-Ride was up 0.8%. As indicated in the financial reports, however, when compared to 2010 adopted budget levels, Accessoride ridership was lower than budget by 4.6%, and Able-Ride ridership was lower than budget by 1.9% for the year-to-date through May. Paratransit fare box revenue for Accessoride was worse than the adopted budget by 5.8% for the month of May. It is 5.3% lower than the budget for the year-to-date. Able-Ride fare box revenue was slightly below budget for the month of May. It is 0.6% lower than budgeted levels for the year-to-date through May. As shown on page 14, requests for service in April increased by 7% for Accessoride and decreased 6.9% for Able-Ride compared to May 2009. For the 12-month average, requests for service increased 13.2% for Accessoride and 1.7% for Able-Ride. Trips completed were up by 8% for Accessoride and down by 6.9% for Able-Ride in May 2010 when compared to May 2009. For the last 12 months, completed trips were up 12.8% for Accessoride and 1.8% for Able-Ride when compared to the prior 12-month period. The favorable trend regarding passenger no-shows as a percentage of scheduled trips continued for Accessoride in May, as there were 29.1% fewer no-shows compared to last year. However, Able-Ride passenger no-shows increased by 7.9% in May 2010 compared to May 2009. And that concludes the paratransit report. I'm going to turn it over to Tom Del Silvo for ridership.
Good morning. I'll begin with the ridership report, which is on page 13 of the committee book. Combined fixed route bus ridership levels in May continue to trend slightly downward. Total fixed route ridership decreased by 2.4% for the month of May in comparison to May 2009. For the 12-month period, total ridership was down by 3.5% as compared to the previous 12 months. Year-to-date, in terms of comparison of ridership to the adopted budget levels, MTA Bus is essentially at adopted budget levels, while Long Island Bus is 1.7% better than budget, and ridership for Transit's Department of Buses is 1.9% lower than budget. For combined average weekday ridership, that was down 1.5% for the month of May and down 3.4% for the 12-month period. Combined average weekend ridership was down 1% in May and 4.3% for the 12-month period. Next is the financial report from the financial statements for the month of May. In terms of fixed route fare box revenue, the preliminary financial results reflect that the May was 3.6% better than the adopted budget for MTA Bus, 3.6% better for Long Island Bus, and 0.4% worse for New York City Transit Bus. Year-to-date, fare box revenue is 3.6% better in MTA Bus than the adopted budget levels. Long Island Bus is 1.9% above budget, and the Department of Buses is less than 0.1% below budget through May. Turning to expenses for the year-to-date through May, actual non-reimbursable accrued expenses before all non-cash adjustments for MTA Bus were $22.4 million better than the adopted budget. For Long Island Bus, $2.5 million better than adopted budget year-to-date. And as information for New York City Transit Bus, non-reimbursable expenses were almost $41 million better than budget for the year-to-date. In total, through May, the combined budget underrun for the 3 bus units, including paratransit operations, is almost $66 million below budget levels, which include over 600 vacancies in those 3 agencies. That concludes the finance report.
Thank you. Now we're going to discuss the procurements.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
You will have July's ridership figures by September or late August? Would that be fair?
July will be the second half of August.
Okay.
We just received preliminary results for June in the last couple of days.
That will be the first full month after the service reduction, so it would be interesting
Correct.
to see what those numbers look like.
Oh, absolutely. Everybody's waiting to see how that turns out.
Thank you.
Okay.
Procurements. Beginning on page 39, there are a total of 8 procurement actions totaling $66.8 million in proposed expenditures for approval this month. There are 2 non-competitive procurements for Long Island Bus totaling $131,700 for approval. There are also 6 competitive procurement actions totaling $66,688,739 for approval. The list of competitive procurements includes the proposed purchase of 135 40-foot low-floor compressed natural gas buses, which represent 90 for New York City Transit and 45 for MTA Bus, with an option to purchase up to 340 additional buses for New York City Transit and MTA Bus, and that's detailed on the staff summary on page 48. We seek the committee's approval for the 8 procurement actions in this month's agenda.
Do any of the committee members have questions, especially regarding the bus purchase?
Yes, I noticed that in New York State content, New Flyer also appears to have a goodly amount of New York State content in their buses. Can you just comment on that?
I pass that over to Steve.
Yes, they achieve that through the use of sub-suppliers and suppliers and subcontractors. Some of the work that's done under, whether it be inspection work or pre-delivery work, is done in New York. So it's predominantly through subcontractors.
Upstate, downstate?
Some of it's on Long Island,
Okay.
and some of it's upstate, I believe.
And I noticed that there's a distinction in the category, the quality of proposer and product.
Yes.
Any comment on that?
One of the contributing factors there, we utilized MDBF, which is recognized and as a metric. And New Flyer's MDBF for this particular product, the low-floor CNG bus, was 5,758 miles versus Daimler's Orion's, which is 3,600 miles. So there was a significant difference. New Flyer's MDBF was approximately 60% more.
And have we spoken to Orion about this differential? Is there any are there any issues with their bus that have or haven't been resolved, or?
We've been working with with Orion over the past months, if not years, trying to do product improvement. They have come in and they have done a lot of campaigns to improve the performance, but as of right now, their performance is still not as their MDBF performance is still not as great as New Flyers is.
Okay. I'm satisfied. Thank you.
Mark?
I'm just ignorant. Do we have in our fleet right now a certain amount of New Flyer? Yes, right?
Yes, we do.
What's the proportion between them and Orion right now?
Just CNG-wise, I believe.
We have 190 low-floor CNG buses from New Flyer, and I believe we have about 255 CNG buses, low-floor CNG buses.
Yeah, we have more Orion CNG buses than we do have New Flyer CNG buses.
They also operate head-to-head out of Gleason, and that's where we got a lot of the MDBF information. This is running on similar routes right out of the same depot, so there wasn't a disparity with regard to the operating environment when we did the evaluation.
And this was your 5,000 versus 3,000?
Yes.
And the actual price per unit on the buses?
The New Flyer came in cheaper.
Yes, it's about $6,000 $500 cheaper,
You told me
rounded. The Orion bus is $461,454, and New Flyers is $454,993.
And when this is a competitive bid, right?
Yes.
It's a negotiated procurement.
It's a negotiated
Yeah,
procurement.
so it's just not low price. There's other factors that weigh in.
Do we have any sort of statutory or regulatory structural guidance in terms of how we're supposed to weigh New York State content?
Yes, we do.
Which is?
Under 1209, Public Authorities Law 1209, we're able to provide up to approximately 10% benefit for the party that has the most New York State content. In this particular procurement, Orion enjoyed the predominant value. They got a 10% credit. But given the fact that the differences in the New York State content in this procurement are only the difference between 18% and 13.76%, the latter of which was New Flyers, there wasn't a tremendous difference. In the evaluative criteria, though, it yielded about an $11,000 per unit credit towards Orion. So they got a significant benefit in the per bus evaluation credit.
So when you're giving me the cost per bus and saying that New Flyer was $4,000 less?
Yeah. They were 6,400, 6,500 rounding less.
Less. And that's after an $11,000 adjustment for New York content? What are you saying?
I'll explain it to you. It's a little complicated. I'll try and explain it to you. The issue is that we look at the unit price that they actually quote, and the difference there is about $6,500 difference. That's the actual price we'll pay. Once we factor in such issues as quality and New York State content, there's about a difference of about $4,500 difference between the two once they're evaluated, with New Flyer being the lowest.
There's a good chart in the staff report
Yes.
that lays this out.
So basically, this isn't a price issue.
It goes a little bit beyond price. New Flyer happened to have the lowest price,
Okay.
so we'll be paying the least amount at the end.
But because you have some discretionary abilities here,
Yes.
it doesn't seem to be a price issue.
Not entirely. It has to do with quality of the bus, which we described before earlier, where the New Flyer bus in this particular model outperforms from an MDBF perspective the Orion bus by about 60%.
So it's cheaper and it performs better. There's not a lot
That's
to
right.
dispute about the...
Yeah, Mark, and then Andrew, I'm going to go to you. I just want to finish with Mark. I promise.
Do we weigh the question of these are basically the two realistic providers of CNG buses for us?
At this particular juncture, yes. We are in the process of cultivating additional suppliers, that one of which is also located in New York, in Plattsburgh, Nova Bus. But at this particular juncture, these are the only two companies that currently provide CNG buses to us, or can. And that's not for lack of trying to cultivate additional participation in this area.
Do we weigh the benefit of keeping providers actively in business with us? I guess that there's a question in my mind in terms of whether there's a benefit to us in, as a practical matter, splitting the business. I mean, clearly we have a large fleet of Orion buses right now. Are we confident in terms of their ability to continue to service that fleet for the indefinite future with the purchase decision that you're recommending this morning?
I believe so, and I will say that we have ordered quite a number of hybrid buses from Orion over the years, and to that end, they will continue to enjoy aftermarket support in terms of the parts that we buy and purchase in order to keep those buses on the road. In addition, we also are planning a 90-bus pilot order towards the end of this year that will allow them to provide a hybrid bus 40-foot hybrid low-floor bus to us with a new propulsion system, which is also generated or manufactured by a manufacturer in New York, BAE.
They will be providing to us. Who's they?
I'm sorry, Orion.
Thank you.
So they'll be getting, it's anticipated they will get additional business.
Why would it, they've already bid on it and been awarded the bid?
No, we actually, towards the end of the year, we're in the process of awarding a number of test contracts, and one of the test contracts is currently slated for Orion, as well as there's going to be another one for New Flyer, as well as Nova.
All right, Mark, are you feeling semi-satisfied with these answers before I move on to Andrew? Semi. Okay, Andrew.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but we have had problems with New Flyer's articulated buses, haven't we?
Yes, we have.
And I seem to recall at a meeting their lack of support on rectifying some of those problems, and I'm just wondering why you think that's not going to be an issue with this order.
Well, I would say that New Flyer stood behind their product. The articulated bus is different from a regular 40-foot bus, and we're just retiring articulated buses now that are on the road 13 years. As new buses come in, articulated buses, we're retiring them. And they have stood behind their product. There has been issues, though, I must tell you, the performance-wise. The articulated buses did not perform well at all.
Is that just New Flyers or Artics?
Artics in general do not perform as well as a 40-foot bus because they have more things that can go wrong with the bus.
We're also in the process, and you may know, that testing low-floor articulated buses now. So we've got somebody else in the market.
Who's that?
It's from Nova Bus.
Jeff?
I see that there's an option for another 300 some odd buses. Do we have funding in the capital plan for those extra 300 buses? And do we obviously don't need to exercise that option if Orion comes in and says, I've made these adjustments to improve performance and you're satisfied. You can choose not to exercise the option, correct?
You could. That's correct.
I had asked quietly, I asked Joe, is there any kind of implication in terms of parts, inventory parts, going to a new vendor on these? You know, does it cost us anything more to hold more parts?
The extent to which that you might be able to leverage some of our current inventory, that's a possibility. However, in this particular case, New Flyer did come forward with some additional incentives with regard to long-term parts provisioning and gave us additional discounts, which may make a portion of that difference.
Does anyone have? It's a big decision. I just want to be sure everybody's comfortable. Jeff?
Okay. Can I want to ask a question about the other procurement for a second.
Right.
On the paratransit stuff, Tom, the increase in the voucher, is that, I guess I heard what you said earlier, which is we're below budget, we're below what we projected. So the increase in voucher that we're putting forward would be a reduction in the normal accessorized contract usage?
Right.
So what is sort of the average ride for these vouchers?
Right now, for the vouchers, it's crept up to about $30 because we're getting deeper into their book, but it's still a cost-effective measure.
And down from what we were probably paying closer to 50 or 45?
Right, 48.
So the overall use of vouchers in the paratransit program is up to how much, do we think?
Right now, we're targeted for an annual 15% increase. We're already reaching close to 13% in our first 5 months of operation.
That's an increase over last year's usage or the
last
total?
year, over last year's usage.
What's the percent of the total usage in the paratransit program that are projected to be vouchers?
It was, at the end of 2009, 10% of our trips, and right now it's roughly about 13%.
Got it. And do we know, I didn't catch the number, you said we were below what we expected in paratransit usage and ridership. Is it significant? Is it minor?
Yeah, we trend generally 15 to 16% on an annual basis. What I'm looking at now is a trend maybe near 11 to 12%.
There's no real reason why. I mean, it's still
the economy,
increasing by
discretionary
over 10%.
trips, right? It's still increasing, but I think the economy and discretionary trips have come down a little bit.
Thanks.
While we're on the paratransit and Able Ride, as we open handicapped accessibility in subway stations. Is that something that you reflect on an ongoing basis in terms of your assessment of applications for rides?
Yes, we ask questions about their use of bus and subway, and we do try to include this in our analysis for successful connections to subway stations. Right now, in our beginning steps, we're concentrating on bus, but our software will consider subway access as well.
And does it actually get current notice when we open an elevator in the station?
Yes.
Can you tell me where New Flyer manufactures these buses?
And where?
Microphone.
In Winnipeg, Canada, and also in, that's the frames, and then in the United States in St. Cloud.
Okay, so now my question for you now is, now that you've mentioned Canada here, what percentage of the Orion buses are made in America, and what percentage of the New Flyer buses are made in America?
I'd have to get back to you, but it is important to note that a portion of the buses, of the Orion bus, is also manufactured in Canada,
Okay.
in Mississauga.
Okay.
The frames are basically of both buses are made in Canada for both companies.
And then the rest, it's all
It's
assembled?
shipped down,
In the United
assembled,
States.
and, yeah.
Okay. Okay, so if there are no further questions, I'd like a motion to move all these procurements.
Moved.
A second? All in favor? Aye. Okay. Oh, sorry.
I'm on nay vote on the Orion.
Oh, you're abstaining
against.
on Orion? Okay. Are you, by the rules, are you supposed to say why or no?
My reason is that we
You don't have to? I didn't know by the rules if you had to.
Well, I can tell you my reason is.
You don't have to. You don't have to, but
Well,
you
I can tell
can.
you, my reason is that we're not manufactured in New York State, and we were, that's one of our big issues when we went up to Albany a couple months ago, that we, try to do as much work in New York State as we can. Well, we get an opportunity, and I don't see a big difference between why we should and why we shouldn't.
You don't think the mean distance between failures is a big enough difference?
I think it'll be a lot different. It could be substantially different in actuality. I mean, we can throw numbers out all we want. I'm just concerned about the payroll in New York State.
Could we ask, this is not the end of the line. This is the beginning of the line on this issue. Could we ask for you to put together an analysis of the Made in New York scenario for both buses between now and Wednesday?
Certainly.
So that we can have it when the board votes on Wednesday. I think a lot of us would like to have that information. I mean, I have no problem moving this along, but I'd like to have something from your analysis as to what is actually happening.
And Doreen?
I'd like to strongly second that request.
And Doreen has a comment?
And I'd also like to know
Thank you.
about the service responsiveness of Orion and the degree to which, when we ask for changes or modifications or fixes to things that are not working properly, how well they respond.
I mean, being a long-term New Yorker, it pains me to move this along. However, being a trucker, I know how important mean distance between failure is. And it isn't just like, not to quote you, but you say, they can throw any numbers at you. That is like when you're analyzing transportation equipment, that's like the number one thing you analyze. Because what costs you more than anything are breakdowns and any kind of out of service. So that, to me, but I don't know. Is that a number you're just throwing at us?
Absolutely not. These numbers have been vetted, they're recorded, and they're posted.
The number would be a lot better if I was throwing a number at you, that's for sure.
How many miles of travel did these buses travel for you to garner these MDBF figures?
So this is taking the fleet out of Jackie Gleason and comparing its monthly. Some of these buses been in service for 10 or 12 years. So it's taken the total MDBF out of one depot comparing them head-to-head, and looking how they perform.
Are you comparing the same age buses? You're not comparing 10-year-old buses to 2-year-old buses?
The buses we're comparing them to are actually older.
The New Flyer buses are about 5 years older than the Orion buses, and yet they still enjoy a better, higher MDBF.
As I said, that is one issue. I'd still like to see the analysis, if we can have that for the board meeting on Wednesday. So it would be very much appreciated.
The analysis of the...
Of the Made in New York
lineage.
scenario and what, right, the lineage and where everything comes from, that would be very important. Thank you.
To get New York State. Of course. That's the issue.
Well, that's for sure. I'm sorry, Doreen, I had to overhear you say that. Okay, a second, all in favor? Okay, and,
Service changes,
Yeah.
Norm?
yeah.
Okay. There are a total of 6 service changes beginning on page 50, included in the committee book as information items. 4 service changes are for MTA Bus, and 2 are for New York City Transit Department of Buses. First, MTA Bus, the BXM18, which is a peak period express route, will be rerouted in the Flatiron District. Again, this is part of a companion change you'll see later on for New York City Transit. It's reflective of New York City's plan, New York City DOT's plan to extend the Broadway Boulevard from 23rd Street to 14th Street, so we have to move the buses and make the appropriate diversion. The second item is a minor revision in the non-stop path in Queens of 203 express routes. We found a more reliable way, instead of operating via the Van Wyck Expressway to get to the Long Island Expressway westbound. We would like to use the Grand Central. The Q10 is a branch that has 2 branches. This is a minor revision on one of the branches in South Ozone Park to use a more direct, adjacent, and wider street that will improve reliability and reduce travel time.
Norm?
Yeah.
On that issue, since, it's 1 block west of the existing route, do you put signs on the 131st 31st Street stops saying bus services moved 1 block west?
Oh, sure, we will notify them, sure, absolutely. We've already met with the community group, yes, we will notify.
But you do that, not DOT?
Both, actually. No, the notification of the change, we will do that. We will actually put temporary signs up that say, please note your stop is over here, and we'll say
And plus,
exactly
we
where
also
to go.
put signs in the buses still.
Yes. In multiple languages, and we put them on the website and all that sort of thing. That's routine.
When this is set to go in the fall?
This we're going to do right away.
Right
Because
away.
this is an important issue. We're going to do this right away. This is basically within the existing schedule, and we'll just do it. The Q. There are a lot of things from the inherited private bus company operations. This is one among many of them. Many, many, many. On the QM12, we have a minor path revision in Forest Hills. We have an awkward routing at the east end that requires a very difficult turn. We need to shorten that a little bit. Then, for New York City Transit, there are 2 changes. First is the changes on Broadway, similar but in more volume for the express routes that New York City Transit runs, that are going to be affected by the Broadway Boulevard extension to 14th Street. And last is implementation of Bus Rapid Transit, the SBS program, on the M15 route for October.
Okay. Questions? Motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And I guess that concludes the committee agenda. Any questions from anyone? Anything? Any comments, Joe? Anything?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, I move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay.